Let's give Big Ray Burton a big round of applause. Here he comes in. He's in a caboose here, ladies and gentlemen. This is New Hampshire and Vermont. Raymond S. Burton, campaign train, 1990.
The Boston, Concord, and Montreal Railroad opened to Woodsville, New Hampshire in 1853, and the BC&M chose this spot to build their division offices and division point, as well as this three-story station. Woodsville, which is a village of the town of Haverhill, became an important spot, a junction point between the BC&M's line to Plymouth and Concord, and the later Concord and Montreal line to Berlin. They built an extensive engine facility here as well as a yard, and trains came in through all directions. Woodsville, New Hampshire at that time was a far cry from what it is today. In the summer of 1943, there were a total of 38 trains on some days running between Woodsville and Wells River. These included 2 round trips on the Montpelier and Wells River, 7 freight trains from Newport to White River Junction, a milk train each way, and 4 passenger trains. There were also trains running between Concord and Woodsville via Plymouth, as well as those which ran from White River to Berlin. I arrived in Woodsville Yard to qualify and found that the day job was a combined clerk and operator's position. The afternoon trick was a yard clerk only, and the night man's job was also a combined clerk-operator job. These were all 7-day-a-week jobs with the exception of the second trick clerk, which was covered by a relief man from Concord who deadheaded up on train number 5 and back on number 78. This must have made for a long day for him. At Woodsville there was a 44-tonner diesel, number 116, doing the switching. The engine was practically brand new at that time. The crew consisted of a conductor, brakeman, and engineer. The conductor's jobs were owned by 2 brothers, Lewis and Charlie Ross. First trick operator George Perry was more than willing to get me started, as it had been quite a while since he'd had any kind of vacation. He gave me just enough instructions so I would be able to cover the job and let him get out of there. To reach Woodsville, the original 1805 bridge across the Connecticut River from here in Wells River was replaced with a 2-span wooden structure with the railroad on top and a toll bridge below. Eventually that wooden structure was replaced with the steel span that you see here today. Woodsville actually had 2 yards, the North Yard and the South Yard. In the South Yard there were 3 receiving tracks, a scale track, and a dozen or so classification tracks. Next to these were 2 tracks used for snowplows and surplus cars such as pulpwood and stock cars. Further over, there were 2 cleaning tracks which, together, held about 30 cars, usually paper cars. These were overseen by a car cleaner who was assisted in his work by the track repair gang after they finished their daily work. In 1954, the Boston and Maine abandoned their line to Plymouth, taking some of the traffic and much of the yard facilities with it. However, the busy line to Berlin and the loading of wood chip cars in the old Boston, Concord, and Montreal South Yard were busy ventures for the Boston and Maine into the 1970s. The B&M left Woodsville for good in 1989 when Guilford Rail System gave up on the North Country, passing the torch to the New Hampshire and Vermont Railroad, who interchanged here and operated the line towards Whitefield and Berlin. Eventually, the New Hampshire and Vermont was granted trackage rights over the Pompanousek Division to White River Junction, where they did their interchange until 1995. Several campaign trains were operated over the New Hampshire and Vermont for New Hampshire's beloved executive counselor and rail supporter, Ray Burton. The Boston and Maine's White Mountain Division main line from Woodsville to Plymouth was abandoned on October 31st, 1954, but a 5-mile section to Blackmount was maintained and operated as the Blackmount branch, and finally abandoned in 1979. The B&M's yard here in Woodsville as well was maintained and operated as a wood chip plant, and specially labeled wood chip hoppers were an important part of the Boston and Maine's economy here in the North Country. By the mid-1990s, the deteriorating condition of the rails to Berlin, combined with the condemned status of the bridge over the Connecticut River here, and the decline of the rail and paper industries in New Hampshire, was severely hurting railroad business. The last New Hampshire and Vermont train ran from White River Junction, Vermont, to Whitefield on March 31st, 1995, with a single carload of lumber for Littleton. Not long thereafter, the rails were removed and replaced with a snowmobile and walking trail along the Ammonoosuc River today. Today there's little evidence of the great railroading past of Woodsville, New Hampshire, aside from a few landmarks, the station, the freight house, and the bridge chiefly among them. But the name of the town's sports team truly pays homage to the rich past in terms of the railroad in Woodsville, New Hampshire.
your vote.